My mom, my brother, and my sister skipped my award night to throw a party for my cousin who sells diet teas. So I cancelled every bill I paid for them. 3 weeks later, my brother's car got repossessed. I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into the restaurant and saw the empty tables. My name is Rachel Hartman. I'm 34 years old and live in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm an architect, a good one, even if my family never really cared to notice. The night was supposed to be special. I had just won the American Eco-Design Award, something only a handful of people in my industry ever get. I had spent years pouring my heart into sustainable housing projects, and now, finally, the world had noticed. I thought maybe, just maybe, my family would be proud. I sent out invitations 2 weeks before. Texted reminders the day of. I even reserved a private room at Lila's Bistro, a cozy little place downtown. The kind of place my mom loved because they served wine with fruit floating in it and my sister liked because it looked good on Instagram. But when I got there, it was just me. I waited. At first, I told myself they were just running late. That traffic was bad or someone forgot the address. I ordered a glass of water. Then a second. After an hour, the hostess came by, sympathy all over her face. "Still waiting on your party?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Maybe just a few more minutes." I knew I was lying. To her. To myself. I finally pulled out my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Nothing. Just the slow, awful realization sinking into my stomach like a rock. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. Then my brother, Jeremy. No answer. I didn't even bother with my sister, Cara. She barely texted back on a good day unless she needed something. Sitting there, staring at the empty seats around me, it hit me. They weren't late. They weren't coming. An hour later, I was back in my apartment, still in my nice dress, makeup still fresh. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my award certificate propped up against the dresser. It didn't feel like a win anymore. That night, around 10, the family group chat started lighting up. Someone sent a picture, my cousin Lydia's birthday party. A cake the size of a kitchen table, everyone grinning in matching blue outfits. My stomach twisted. They hadn't forgotten about me. They just chose something else. Someone else. The next morning, I asked for a group call. No excuses. No rescheduling. They all showed up, blinking into their webcams from cozy kitchens or sunny patios. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't even look angry. I just told them exactly how it felt. "I invited you weeks ago," I said, staring into the camera. "I reminded you. I asked you to be there for something that mattered to me." Mom rolled her eyes. "Rachel, it was just a work thing." "Yeah," Jeremy said, shrugging. "You don't see us making a big deal every time we get an Employee of the Month certificate." My hands trembled slightly, but I kept my voice steady. It wasn't just a work thing. It was a lifetime of work. It was the biggest achievement of my career. Cara sighed dramatically. "God, not everything has to be about you." That's when something inside me snapped. Quietly. Completely. I leaned forward. "You're right," I said. "It doesn't have to be about me. And from now on, it won't be." I ended the call without another word. Left the group chat. Blocked them all on Venmo. Cancelled every automatic payment tied to them, Jeremy's car insurance, Mom's gardening service, Cara's Spotify family plan. For years, I'd been their silent supporter, paying for things they didn't even know they needed. Tuition balances, dental bills, birthday presents for cousins' kids. Always quiet, always in the background. Not anymore. It didn't feel like revenge. It didn't even feel angry. It felt like cleaning out a closet you didn't even realize was full of junk until you opened the door and everything fell out. For the first time in my life, I felt something strange. Something terrifying. Freedom. At first, nothing happened. The group chat stayed silent. No one called. No one even noticed I'd left. But about 3 weeks later, the cracks started to show. I was leaving work when Jeremy called me. His name flashed across my phone screen, the first time in months he'd bothered to reach out directly. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail instead, a panicked, breathless one. Ratch, hey, not sure if you've seen, but they took my car. I thought the payment went through. Call me when you can, okay? I didn't call him back. I just listened to the message twice, then deleted it. 2 days later, Mom texted. Mom, do you know why my security system stopped working? The payment bounced. There's people in this neighborhood lately. I'm worried. No emoji. No how are you? Just straight to the point, what she wanted. I stared at the screen for a long minute before locking my phone and sliding it into the drawer. The silence after that felt like a warm blanket. A few more days went by. Kara posted a cryptic story on Instagram, a blurry shot of her on a city bus, captioned, "When life humbles you." She hadn't ridden public transit in years. She used to brag about her cute little leased SUV, the one I had quietly covered the down payment for last spring. Now it was gone. I should have felt guilty. Maybe 2 months ago, I would have. But sitting at my kitchen counter that night, sipping bad coffee and watching the rain tap against the windows, all I felt was peace. Real peace. The kind I hadn't known I was missing. I could breathe. I could think. I could exist without the constant, buzzing background noise of someone needing something from me. It was weird at first. I kept catching myself expecting the guilt to slam back into me. Like maybe I'd wake up one morning panicking that I had let someone down. But the only thing I felt was lighter. The house of cards was falling, and for once, I wasn't under it, trying to hold it up with my bare hands. They didn't know it yet, not fully, but the ground had shifted under them. And I wasn't rushing in to fix it this time. I just let it happen. And for the first time, I realized, maybe they needed to fall. Maybe I needed them to. Sometimes when I couldn't sleep, I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, thinking about how it all started. It wasn't like I woke up one day and decided to be the family safety net. It just happened. Little by little. I got my architecture degree straight out of UNC Charlotte. Moved back to Asheville because it was cheap, and because Mom kept saying, "Don't be a stranger." Back then, I thought coming home would feel like a victory. It didn't. My first job was brutal, small firm, long nights, laughable pay. I'd stay until 2, 3 in the morning, redrafting housing layouts until my eyes burned. But I kept my head down, built a portfolio, took every miserable project they handed me. By 27, I was leading designs for eco-housing developments. By 29, I was winning small state awards. Nothing fancy yet, but enough to get my name into the right rooms. That's when the calls started. At first, it was just Mom. "Sweetheart, could you spot me the water bill? Your brother's been short lately and we're all pitching in." Then Kara needed help with her dental work. "It's just until my insurance kicks in, I swear." Then Jeremy missed tuition payments for his life coach certification, something he never finished. I covered it anyway. I told myself it was temporary. Just until they got their feet under them. Just a few bills. Just a little support. But it never stopped. 1 month it was rent. The next it was vet bills for Mom's precious golden retriever. Then it was Kara's emergency root canal for her rescue cat. Even Jeremy's motorcycle repair because he couldn't Uber to job interviews looking like a loser. Each time, the thank yous got smaller. The explanations thinner. But whenever the family got together, birthdays, barbecues, Christmas dinners, it was the same song. "Rachel's the stable one," Mom would say, smiling proudly to her friends. "Rachel's the blessed one," Kara would chirp, clinking her wine glass. "Rachel always lands on her feet," Jeremy joked once, ruffling my hair like I was still 12. I'd laugh along, pretend it didn't sting. Because deep down, I thought maybe if I just kept being useful enough, generous enough, steady enough, they'd finally see me. Not just the bank account. Not just the blessed one. Me. I designed my first major eco-housing community by 31, 50 affordable homes built sustainably, solar panels, recycled materials, smart design. A project that made the news, landed me in magazines. My family didn't even mention it at Thanksgiving that year. Not once. Mom spent most of dinner talking about how proud she was of Jeremy for finally getting serious about selling insurance part-time. Kara announced she was starting a lifestyle coaching business on Instagram. Nobody asked about my work. Nobody asked how it felt to see my name in print. I think that was when I really understood. I wasn't family. I was infrastructure. A silent, invisible thing they leaned on without ever looking down to see what was holding them up. I wish I could say it was a surprise. The night of my award ceremony, I sat alone at Lila's bistro for a long time after I paid the bill. I didn't feel ready to go home yet. I guess some part of me was still hoping someone would show up, even just out of guilt. Nobody did. When I finally dragged myself back to my apartment, I kicked off my heels, threw my purse on the couch, and collapsed into bed, still in my dress, makeup smeared. I stared at the ceiling for a while, letting the numbness settle over me. Then, out of habit, I picked up my phone. Opened Instagram. Scrolled. That's when I saw it. Photo after photo, flooding my feed like a slap in the face. There they were, Mom, Kara, Jeremy, and half the cousins, smiling in matching white and gold outfits, arms wrapped around each other at a surprise birthday party. Not just any party either. It was for Lydia, our 26-year-old cousin who used to run a mildly popular beauty blog before she moved to Atlanta and started selling diet teas. A massive custom cake shaped like a makeup palette. Gold balloons covering the ceiling. Fancy cocktail glasses clinking under fairy lights. Everyone was there. Even relatives who lived 2 states away. Even Mom's best friend Carol, who once called Lydia a shallow little twit when she thought nobody was listening. Apparently Lydia was worth it. Apparently Lydia fit the vibe. I sat there staring at my phone, the images blurring together. My heart thudded dully in my chest. It wasn't that they forgot my night. They had made a choice. They chose someone else. Somewhere else. Something shinier, flashier, easier to brag about. I zoomed in on one photo, Mom standing between Lydia and Kara, grinning so wide you'd think she won the lottery. The caption under it read, "Family first. Always. #blessed #birthday queen. Family first." The words made something cold settle in my stomach. I locked my phone and set it face down on the nightstand. I didn't cry. Not really. It was more like this slow, sinking feeling, like standing on the beach while the tide pulls all the sand out from under your feet. For a long time I just lay there, staring into the dark, listening to the sound of my own breathing. The next morning, when I opened Instagram again, there were more posts. Video clips this time, Jeremy trying to break open a champagne bottle, Mom and Kara laughing hysterically in the background. Lydia blowing out candles while everyone sang, off-key but loud, arms slung around each other like they were starring in a family sitcom. They had room for her. Just not for me. And it hit me, maybe it had always been that way. I just hadn't wanted to see it. Until now. After that night, I didn't make any big announcements. No angry texts. No dramatic phone calls. No carefully worded speeches about how hurt I was. I just started canceling things. First was Jeremy's motorcycle lease. The one he couldn't afford but needed because he said showing up to interviews on a bus made him look desperate. I'd been covering half the payments for months without him even asking anymore. One click, one phone call, done. Next was Mom's monthly gardener subscription. She loved bragging about her rose bushes, telling the neighbors it was natural talent. She never mentioned that I'd been quietly footing the bill ever since she retired. Cancelled. Then Kara's upcoming weekend retreat, some holistic therapy certification thing she was convinced would change her life. I had prepaid the registration months ago after one of her usual frantic phone calls. I sent a short email to the event coordinator, asking for a refund if possible. If not, oh well. Either way, Kara wasn't going. No drama. No explanations. Just gone. By the end of the week, my inbox was filling up. First, a confused email from Jeremy. Weird question, did my lease company screw up? My payment bounced? Then Mom. Sweetheart, the gardening company says they haven't been paid. Did something happen with your card? And Kara. Hey, getting some error registering at the retreat? Can you check? I didn't reply to any of them. The text started getting sharper a few days later. Mom, Rachel, this is serious. I don't understand why you're being like this. Jeremy, at least warn people before you bail, geez. Kara, I really needed that weekend. Thanks for nothing. I just watched it all unfold from the quiet of my little apartment, drinking cheap wine and ignoring the vibrating phone on the counter. There was no satisfaction in it. No rush of victory. Just relief. For years, I'd been their scaffolding. Their emergency plan. The invisible web that caught them every time they stumbled. Now the web was gone. And for once, I wasn't the one falling. They still didn't seem to understand what was happening yet. They thought it was some fluke, a banking error, a misunderstanding. Some technical glitch they could guilt me into fixing. They didn't realize it yet, but this wasn't temporary. This was the start of the demolition. And I wasn't going to stop. It was a Saturday morning when it happened. I was in the middle of brewing coffee when I heard the pounding at my front door, loud, angry, relentless. I didn't even have to look. I already knew. I set my mug down, took a deep breath, and opened the door. There they were. Mom, Jeremy, Kara, all standing on my porch like an angry mob. Mom had tears in her eyes. Jeremy looked ready to start swinging. Kara was chewing her gum so hard I thought she might break her jaw. What the hell is wrong with you? Jeremy barked the second I cracked the door open. Nice to see you too, I said dryly. Mom pushed past me into the living room without waiting for an invitation. Jeremy and Kara followed. I stood there for a second, then shut the door quietly behind them. You can't just abandon us, Mom said, voice trembling, hands fluttering like she was wringing out invisible laundry. Family doesn't do that. I crossed my arms. Funny, I thought family showed up when you invite them to the most important night of your life. I thought family cared. Kara rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might pop out of her head. It was one stupid work event. Get over yourself. It wasn't about the event, I said, my voice low and even. It was about what it proved. Mom sniffled loudly. You're punishing us for not coming to some award thing? Seriously? After everything we've done for you? I let out a soft, bitter laugh. Everything you've done for me? You mean the years you leaned on me like I was some endless ATM? The years you called me the stable one every time you needed rent, tuition, vet bills, spa days? Kara scoffed. Oh, cry me a river, Rachel. You have money. It's not like you ever missed it. Jeremy stepped forward, his fists clenched. You think you're better than us now? 'Cause you got some plaque and your name in a magazine? No, I said, voice shaking but steady. I think I'm finally awake. They blinked, thrown off by how calm I was. You didn't forget my award night, I continued, locking eyes with each of them. You chose not to come. You prioritized a birthday party for a cousin who sells detox teas online over celebrating the biggest achievement of my life. Mom's lip quivered. We didn't think it was that important. Exactly, I cut in sharply. You never think it's important when it's me. The room went still. And then, the last crack. From the hallway, a voice spoke up, soft but clear. It was Lydia. I hadn't even noticed her standing there, holding her purse like she was ready to bolt. I told them we should go to your award night, she said quietly. I told them it mattered. Everyone turned to stare at her. She shifted uncomfortably, but kept going. They laughed it off. Said you'd understand. Said it was just work. Kara hissed, shut up, Lydia. But it was too late. The damage was done. Lydia met my eyes, gave me the smallest nod, and then turned and walked out the door without another word. For the first time, someone took my side. Someone in that tangled mess of a family saw what they had done, and chose not to pretend it was okay. The silence left behind felt heavier than any screaming match ever could have. I picked up my coffee mug again, took a slow sip, and said, there's the door. Use it. Mom's mouth opened, then closed. Jeremy looked like he wanted to break something. Kara just stood there, chewing her gum even harder. One by one, they left. No slamming doors. No dramatic exits. Just silence. And when the door finally clicked shut, I locked it behind them. This time, for good. After the confrontation, the silence was deafening. At first, I thought maybe they'd finally gotten the message. That maybe they'd stay gone. I was wrong. 2 days later, the voicemails started. Long, rambling ones from Mom, crying about how the family was falling apart. Short, angry ones from Jeremy, accusing me of ruining everything. Passive-aggressive texts from Kara, full of half-hearted jabs and half-baked guilt trips. Mom, Rachel, we're drowning. How could you do this to your own family? Jeremy, guess your fancy eco award made you forget who was there for you when you were nobody. Kara, hope your new perfect life is worth it. I didn't answer. Not once. Every time my phone buzzed, I just watched it light up, then go dark again. It wasn't even about the money anymore, though I knew they were feeling the hole I'd left. It was about control. About the fact that for the first time, they couldn't guilt me, couldn't drag me back into their mess with a few well-placed tears. I stayed quiet. I stayed free. Instead, I threw myself into my next project, a design competition for urban shelters, focused on creating affordable, dignified spaces for single parents. It was the kind of project that felt right. Real. Like building something good from the rubble I was finally willing to leave behind. Most nights, I worked late, sketches and coffee mugs piling up around me. My apartment was messy but peaceful, filled with the quiet hum of possibility instead of constant buzzing demands. It felt good. It felt like breathing air I didn't know I'd been missing. One Thursday evening, after a long day of drafting and reworking models, I found a small envelope slipped under my front door. No return address. Inside was a folded piece of pink construction paper, covered in crayon. A big, shaky heart drawn in the middle. Inside the heart, in uneven kid handwriting, were 5 simple words. You're still my favorite. Ellie. Ellie. My niece. Kara's daughter. I sank onto the floor, the letter clutched in my hands. I hadn't even thought about the kids, the few innocent bystanders caught in the middle of the wreckage. I ran my fingers over the crayon lines, feeling something sharp and bittersweet lodge itself deep in my chest. Ellie didn't care about the fights, or the money, or the stupid labels the adults threw around. She just cared about me. Not because I paid for school supplies or birthday parties. Just because. For the first time in weeks, I let myself cry, not out of anger or grief, but out of something else. Something softer. Hope. Maybe the family I left behind wasn't entirely broken. Maybe the parts that mattered most, the small, honest pieces, were still worth loving. Even from a distance. It was about a week after Ellie's note that someone knocked on my door. Not pounding, not demanding, just a few soft raps. Polite. Hesitant. I wiped my hands on my jeans and peeked through the peephole. It was Drew. For a second, I didn't move. Just stood there blinking, trying to make sense of it. Drew was my sister Kara's ex. They'd dated for a couple of years before things imploded the way they always did with Kara, a mix of blame, bitterness, and passive-aggressive Facebook posts. He'd been quiet, steady, a little rough around the edges. A wilderness guide who spent most of his time in the mountains leading backpacking tours for kids. We hadn't talked in over a year. I opened the door. Hey, he said, holding out a brown paper bag awkwardly. Brought something. Inside were 2 small, handmade wooden toys, a carved fox and a bear, polished smooth. I turned them over in my hands, not sure what to say. For Ellie, he added quickly. She wanted you to have them. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. Thanks. We stood there for a second, the late afternoon sun throwing long shadows across the floor. He shifted on his feet, like he wasn't sure if he should stay or go. Then he looked me in the eye and said, "You did the right thing, you know." I stared at him, caught off guard. What? Walking away, he said simply. Should have done it myself years ago. I just didn't have the guts. I leaned against the doorframe, feeling the weight of the last few months settle differently on my shoulders. Lighter somehow. They're never gonna see it, Drew said, his voice low. Not really. Not until they have to stand on their own. I nodded. No words needed. He shoved his hands into the pockets of his jacket. Anyway. Just wanted to say, not everyone thinks you're the bad guy. He gave me a small, crooked smile, the kind that didn't ask for anything in return, and turned to leave. I stood there for a long time after he disappeared down the steps, the carved fox warm in my palm. Not everyone was broken. Some people had just been trapped like I was, waiting for someone else to be brave first. And maybe, just maybe, I was starting to believe I could be more than what they made me. 8 weeks later, I stood in the middle of my new living room, balancing a tray of cupcakes and laughing as someone knocked over a stack of moving boxes. It wasn't much of a housewarming party. Just 5 people, a couple of friends from work, a neighbor who helped me haul furniture, and Drew, who showed up quietly with a bottle of homemade cider and left his shoes at the door without asking. No family. No forced smiles. No guilt hanging in the air like smoke. Just real people. People who chose me, the way I finally learned to choose myself. I looked around the room, at the mismatched chairs, the half-built bookshelves, the dog-eared architectural magazines piled up on the coffee table, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Home. Not an obligation. Not a performance. Home. The studio was thriving too. After I pulled away from my family, it was like my brain had more room. More light. More focus. I was taking on projects that mattered to me: community centers, eco-housing, shelters for single parents trying to rebuild their lives. It felt like building pieces of my own story into the world. Pieces no one could take credit for but me. I slept now. Deep, dreamless sleep, the kind that stitched your soul back together one night at a time. I stopped checking my phone for voicemails I didn't want to hear. Stopped replaying old conversations in my head, trying to find the moment everything went wrong. It didn't matter anymore. They made their choice. And finally, I made mine. After the last guest left that night, I stood in the doorway, barefoot, listening to the soft hum of the city outside. The floor creaked under my feet as I crossed the room and picked up a framed blueprint sitting on my kitchen counter, the design that had won me the award no one had shown up to celebrate. I traced the lines with my finger, thinking about how easy it had been to lose myself trying to be the strong one. The fixer. The stable one. The one who didn't make waves. I wasn't that person anymore. I grabbed a pen and a scrap of paper from the counter. Sat down on the floor, my knees pulled up to my chest, and wrote a letter I would keep tucked in my desk for later. For myself. Or maybe for a daughter I'd raise someday, someone I'd teach early that strength wasn't about carrying everyone else's weight until you broke. It was about choosing what to carry at all. It was short. Simple. It said, "You are not a bridge to someone else's dreams. You are not a bank account. You are not a safety net. You are a home, and you deserve to live there too." I folded the paper, tucked it between the pages of an old sketchbook, and sat there for a long time, just breathing. In. Out. Alive. Finally.